So this is the one I was looking forward to. I mentioned this handheld in my previous video where I reviewed the Anbernic RG28XX. This is the Miyoo A30 Pocket game handheld. Very similar to the Anbernic in shape, size, what it's capable of doing as far as what I could tell initially. But man, looks can be deceiving. I've been hearing a lot of praise of this thing. I don't watch other YouTube videos, but hearing from other people out there posting comments and hitting me up. And I don't know, man. Like, I was really excited. This thing's got an analog stick where the Anbernic didn't. It has a cool looking design. Yeah, both of them, they're very small. I'll compare it a little bit more to the Anbernic in a moment, as there's some things you have to know. But this thing has a 2.8-inch screen. It's got an A33 processor. The UI is very simple and easy to go through. But immediately, when I started using this thing, I was like, okay, let me get to the settings. Let me get to the settings here because the screen is very dark. Let me boost the brightness. Maybe the setting for brightness is all the way down. But no, it wasn't. It was actually maxed. And I was like, this is crazy. I looked it up, and other people have mentioned the same thing. It appears that the screen is very dark. That's just unfortunate. Doesn't necessarily take away from the enjoyment on a lot of things, but it can. I did notice playing some Neo Geo Pocket, the default has a shader on, and holy crap, I couldn't even see what I was doing. Like, you can possibly see it better from my recording than I was seeing it in real life, but I had to duck around my camera and look to the side to even kind of tell what I was doing. No shaders for this thing. If you like shaders, don't turn them things on because it's just going to darken the screen even more. It's typically what shaders do, but sometimes people like shaders and just not working with this one, all right? But as far as the feel goes, I'll tell you right now, the buttons on this thing, I actually like them better than the Anbernic and the D-pad and the shoulder buttons. So there's a lot that I liked better. Like, I kind of wish these two would just get it on and have a baby and have a nice little budget handheld with the best features from both of them, and keep it at that under $50 price point type of thing. Because man, yeah, there's pros and cons to both. But I'll get to which one I would pick toward the end of the video, but it's probably going to be pretty obvious. So I went through, tested a bunch of stuff with this device. Some of the higher end games I wanted to check out. And on this one, they actually had Nintendo 64, where the Anbernic didn't have N64 default. Maybe you could add it and all that. I like to review these things the way they are sent to me. But on that note, the company who sent this to me, they did mention that there was a new firmware update. And I went to go download it, but the website that hosts the update just kept hanging. And then I would get my browser would be like, hey, nothing happened here. I tried for a few days, kind of held me back on getting this video done. So I didn't update the firmware, but maybe the firmware fixes some issues. I'm not sure, but yeah, Nintendo 64, I played it on here, ran like garbage, very stuttery with the sounds and, some slowdown here and there. There's only a very few select games, maybe 4 games that were on here. And playing Star Fox just wasn't enjoyable for me. I did play some PSP, and I noticed some slowdown and stuttering. The main thing, sometimes gameplay looks smooth, but when you're listening to the music and the sound effects, it's chunky and choppy and crunchy and weird. And the thing that sucks with this handheld, the way it was sent to me, was it wasn't just the higher end systems that were doing that. It was weird. Super Nintendo, for example, sounded like ass. I was playing some Sunset Riders, one of my all-time favorites, man. And I was like, this is unbearable, just the way the speaker sounds. But it's not the speaker, because I was playing other things on Sega Genesis, and it sounded fine. So, I don't know, there's some emulation issues here. Maybe the new updates will fix that. Unfortunately, I couldn't test all that. I did jump into PS1, always have to do so, even though usually most of these types of handhelds will play PS1 just fine. Take your mom's Vibe, hook it up to the toaster, 9-volt battery, whatever you got to do, and you're playing PS1. PS1 runs on everything, damn it. On here, it ran just fine. Music. That's the big thing. A lot of these fools be putting these devices out and making these builds where the music's not there, whatever, the music was ripped, they're compressed, whatever the reason, doesn't freaking matter. But this, okay, PS1 games running fine, sounding fine, looking fine, right? Dreamcast, there was only a very few select games on there. I played some Crazy Taxi. That was like a choppy mess. I can't play the audio, so it may not be like apparent right away. But yeah, there's some slowdown. The music was nonstop choppy, obviously due to copyright. Can't, play the music from that game. But, it's just crazy. This thing I thought was going to be cool, man. Like, because I really like the Anbernic. But this thing, just out of the box, it just isn't tickling it for me, unfortunately. I like things about it. The buttons, the D-pad, the shoulder buttons. I almost forgot. And I got to show some footage of this. The stupid little analog stick. I think mine may be defective. So, like, at your own risk. I don't know if this is a widespread issue, but I noticed games that had the analog stick, like, activated, it would, like, there was drift, man. I was jumping. I was like, is it the D-pad? Is it the analog stick? What the hell's going on here? Like, it just keep going up. I tested a few games and that had the analog stick activated, and it was just, it was pressing up nonstop. So maybe I got a little defective unit, but you know what? At the end of the day, looking at these two, this one doesn't have an HDMI out. The Anbernic did. Now it's kind of cool. I don't really care that much, but it's a nice feature to have. The Anbernic has a headphone jack. This one doesn't, but it came with a little adapter to plug into the OTG USB-C. Have a headphone jack that way. That's cool, I guess. I like the shoulder buttons better on the Miyoo than the Anbernic. This only has one micro SD card slot, so you can't add an additional, setup on there of games. The Anbernic did. Both of these devices are very similar in price, and I like the way the buttons and D-pad and shoulder buttons feel on the Miyoo compared to the Anbernic, but it's still acceptable on the Anbernic. So if I had to choose between the two, I would go with the Anbernic. The Anbernic, it just feels better as far as like the weight to it and the build. I don't know. It seems slightly nicer. It's got some, more curves to it than just the straight rectangle of the Miyoo, but it's just the way it is. These companies are going to continually put these things out. I really don't see the point in the analog stick now that I've been messing with this on the Miyoo. Just kind of in my way. My thumb butt kept rubbing on it, and it's not cool, man. It's a very small handheld. Didn't really need to have the analog stick. Most of the games that I'd want to play on this wouldn't require it anyway. Just feels more like it gets in the way now that I've used it. So that's my final thoughts. For me, the Miyoo A30, while it's cheap, it looks nice. It's a pass for me. I would rather go with the Anbernic. Anbernic's always doing some quality stuff, it appears. Miyoo does as well. But this one, nah. Thanks for watching. Bye.